Just about this time last week, hundreds of people in South Florida were waking up to find packages like this on their lawns and their driveways, baggies filled with flyers, filled with anti-Semitic, hate-tinged lies and false accusations.
The latest anti-Semitic incidents brought instant disgust, confusion, fear, and a lot of questions. Mitchell Tapper is the head of security at the Jewish Federation of Broward County. Lonny Wilk is the interim regional director of the ADL Florida division. Lonny, great to have you back.
Welcome.
See you again. And Mitchell, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning, Glenna and
Mitchell,
Michael.
can we, I want to start with you because you had a front row seat to this. You got a call last Sunday from some of the people you know who found these on your driveway. I just want to throw out there that personally, I'm not going to be saying the name of this group because I just don't want to give it more attention and a platform than it already has. But you know about this group. They're national. They're prolific. Tell us what you know.
This group has been around for quite some time. They've done rides. They've done flyer distribution, not only here in South Florida, but across the United States as well. Their message is vile, anti-Semitic. And it actually puts some fear in the people who receive these.
Yeah. Lonny, talking about putting fear in people, I have to say that my wife and I were driving yesterday morning, Shabbat morning, by a couple of synagogues in our neighborhood. There were police cars stationed outside every one of them. And that's probably a good thing, but at the same time, you think to yourself, why in 2022 do we need police cars stationed outside houses of worship, Jewish houses of worship?
Yeah, we're in a very interesting and disturbing point in history where, look, the Jewish community across the country and right here in South Florida have experienced a significant rise in anti-Semitic incidents targeting children, targeting individuals, targeting houses of worship. In 2019, we saw nationally the highest level of anti-Semitic incidents that ADL has seen since we started tracking them in 1979. And in the following year, although there was a 4% drop across the country, Florida saw a 40% increase in anti-Semitic incidents.
And what accounts for that, Lonny? What accounts for that alarming increase in Florida?
I think one of the things that we saw, look, when the coronavirus pandemic hit, a lot of us thought that incidents of anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry would decrease because we had less human interaction. But we saw the exact opposite. We saw incidents of harassment, of vandalism in our state significantly increase. We coined and learned the term Zoom bombing, where we had a significant level of Jewish institutions being targeted on this Zoom platform. In fact, here in the state of Florida, one of the first Zoom bombing incidents occurred to a funeral. While a Jewish family was burying a loved one, while they were graveside, someone took over the screen and shared swastikas and Nazi rhetoric, and it's vile and it needs to stop.
Mitch, I want to talk about something that I found really fascinating this week. You have a background in law enforcement, and as horrible as people are finding these flyers and the speech and the venom and the hate and the possible danger, the police departments that are involved and the Miami-Dade State Attorney, we found hard pressed to find, and they're looking for what the actual crime is, because a hate crime in Florida has to be attached to something else first to elevate the crime. But the underlying crime here, and on the bottom of the flyers, it actually says these flyers were distributed randomly and without malicious intent, almost like a disclaimer, knowing that they could get around any kind of laws. What do you make of this? What is the crime? What can the crime be here?
Unfortunately, Glenna, this falls under their First Amendment right of free speech. The same First Amendment right that protects everybody else also, unfortunately, protects them. That doesn't mean that intelligence is not gathered, that just like any other terrorist group or right wing or left wing, for that matter, group that instills fear and promotes a message of hate, that doesn't mean law enforcement is not looking at them, waiting for them to make some mistake or commit some crime or violate some law. Again, the same message that protects. They don't go on people's property when they do this, and that makes it very difficult to prosecute. I do stay in touch with my local prosecutor's office when an alleged hate crime is committed, and I am trying to pursue anything that would elevate any of these to a hate crime.
So Lonny, can I just take that and follow up with you? So hate speech is free speech. And so with the rise of hate speech and anti-Semitic actions that comes under the First Amendment, what do you do with that? How do you, especially with social media? I read a headline someplace, ancient hate, modern medium. Social media has just exponentially made things worse. Disinformation, lies, conspiracy theories. What do you do with that?
So thank you for that. The social media and the platforms that we all use on a day-to-day basis have really amplified hate speech to a dangerous level. We know that rhetoric, that anti-Semitic or any other kind of bias-motivated rhetoric may not stay at rhetoric. It may accelerate to harassment, to acts of violence. And so we need to take firm measures against the spread of conspiracy theories, against the spread of hate. And what Mitch had mentioned earlier, that these individuals had used their free speech. Every single other person in our society also has free speech. So we can use our voices to denounce anti-Semitism, to denounce bigotry. And one thing I must say that we've, in the Jewish community, have seen frequently of late is we've seen significant levels of anti-Semitism coming from the left, coming from the right. We've seen anti-Semitism related last May to the Israel-Hamas conflict. We've seen a significant level of Holocaust comparisons to the COVID pandemic, to vaccines, which are all just vile. We need leaders, we need community members to speak out clearly and consistently as allies against anti-Semitism, because anti-Semitism does not just affect the Jewish community. Anti-Semitism is anti-American. Homophobia is anti-American. Islamophobia is anti-American. Racism is anti-American. And we need to stand up for that American value.
Lonny, Mitch, we are going to take a quick break, and we will be back to pick up this conversation next.
Today on This Week in South Florida, we are speaking with Mitchell Tapper of the Broward County Jewish Federation and Lonny Wilk of the ADL about the alarming rise in anti-Semitism. Lonny earlier said that it's up 40% in Florida, anti-Semitic incidents over the last year. Mitchell Tapper, let me ask you, these flyers, as you well know, were distributed in Miami Beach and in the city of Fort Lauderdale, but then Glenna and Glenna reported on this in several other cities around the country, the same flyers. So there does seem to be some organizational effort to do this. How big is this organization?
The group itself has followers, and they communicate with their followers. And whatever city, it's not always the same that they hit with littering these flyers around the United States. In select cities, I guess, where they have those followers. They're not always the same flyer. They always have a vile, disgusting anti-Semitic message attached to them. And this group also will do these rallies where they do runs in several cities and hang banners over overpasses and drive through touting their message.
And when you deal with this group, Mitch, and others like it, as we were talking about before, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is the fear that it will become violent, or is the fear more it will spur others to violence?
The fear is that it will spur violence. This group in and of itself is not violent. They come pretty close to getting in your face before they cross that line. But there are other incidents, for example, Colleyville, Texas, or other incidents even in South Florida where Jews have been attacked walking to or from synagogue. So when you have something that may be on its face value nonviolent, there is a hint of oh my God, what might happen next. So we try to step up, security in all the Jewish communities and institutions.
Lonny, you were talking about hate in all its forms: anti-Semitism, sexism, racism, homophobia, Islamophobia. Anti-Semitism, though, has a different component because besides hate, there is a conspiracy theory component that makes it a bit more insidious. I wonder if you would address that.
Yeah, we've seen anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about Jewish power, about Jewish control of the media, of financial institutions, and much more. We've seen religiously based anti-Semitic conspiracy theories take hold. And the Colleyville incident in Texas is an interesting example of that, where allegedly, according to reports, the individual came to the United States and carried out the hostage situation because he thought that Jews controlled the U.S. government to be able to free a prisoner. And that just speaks to the level that which these conspiracy theories can, as Mitch was saying, the hate that these spread may not be on their face to the level of crossing the line into illegal issues, but they can take hold in some people and accelerate others.
There isn't a lot of positive things to talk about here, except that the ADL, I know, Lonny, holds training sessions. I think you had 1,600 of them recently over the last year, to teach young people and others, about intolerance and about this kind of hate. And Mitch, I know personally, because I'm on the board of the Holocaust Documentation and Education Center in Dania Beach, they have student awareness days every year, and Holocaust survivors sit down with middle and high school kids and talk about what it was like to be in the Holocaust. I mean, I think these are life-changing kinds of experiences for these young people, and we need more of them.
Well, Michael, this Broward County is the third largest area where Holocaust survivors are. And yes, that is necessary. And I have consulted personally with the Holocaust Documentation Center, as I do with the rest of the community. So getting the message out about that type of hate and what that brought, in the Holocaust is very, very important to teach everyone, to teach in both the Documentation Center, to teach our kids, to teach people in general, because that message should never go away.
Lonny, I was on the ADL's website, just kind of scouting around for our conversation today, and I saw something that kind of stopped me in my tracks. The Center on Extremism, that is part of the Anti-Defamation League, is tracking more than 100 political candidates this year considered to be extremists. Give us some detail on that, please.
What we're seeing is that individuals who have espoused extremist ideologies from the left and the right have traditionally not entered the political sphere, and we are seeing a significant increase across the country of individuals that are affiliated with some extremist groups run for office, run for local and state offices, run for federal offices. And so we need to, as a society, as political, our political leaders need to push back and against any kind of expression of extremism and bigotry. That is not the way to lift up our society. And two other things that I would just want to make sure to add in terms of what people can do to push back against anti-Semitism. One, if you see any kind of anti-Semitic or other bias-motivated incident, if it is a crime or a potential crime, contact law enforcement. And always report it to ADL at adl.org/report incident. And
give us number 2 in 10 seconds. We got to go.
In 10 seconds, we need to all advocate for the Senate Judiciary Committee to confirm Professor Deborah Lipstadt as the U.S. Special Envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. And we urge Senator Rubio as part of that committee to make that happen as soon as possible.
Lonny Wilk, head of the ADL, Mitchell Tapper, Security Director at Jewish Federation of Broward. Great to have you both. Thank you so much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Stay tuned.
Thank you, Glenna. Thank you, Michael.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.